already met with the photographer that they like. They came into their office in New York and they met with them. They brought in a bottle of wine and a bunch of cheese, and their agent came in there. You're competing with that. So if you're not doing that, then you're missing out huge. If you're not constantly meeting with people, and it takes phone calls and emails to set up those meetings. But that is another major key component, that mistake that photographers make, is they fail at their marketing. They don't market themselves, and they don't spend 90% of their time, energy, and resources developing their brand, their portfolio, attending epic photographic workshops like what we offer, marketing their photography to their clients, and then following up with them. And they just rely on word of mouth, and they don't do what it takes to be truly successful. Follow-up is everything. Now, this is something that I'm going to segue off of my marketing experts, because I brought in these amazing marketing experts as panelists on our virtual workshops, as well as panelists on these live webinars. I've had guys like Photography for Profits. I've had, which is a marketing company for photographers. I've had Michael Sterling with MS Marketing. All he does is market photographers. And all these marketing for photographers companies, they all tell me the same thing. They say, hey, we start with a photographer, we market their brand, and then oftentimes the photographer doesn't follow up. So they've all this momentum, all this messaging, all this marketing, all these ads that the photographers are spending money on, and then these leads come in, and the photographers don't do anything about them, which is mystifying to me. If you guys have potential leads that are developed by those people, by those marketing companies that you've hired, or that you've developed yourself, follow up with them. Phone call, make a phone call, pick up the phone, dial, call them, speak to them, build a relationship. But just the marketing stuff just brings them possibility in the door. After that, you guys have to follow through by follow up, making the phone calls, developing the relationships. And then if you're lucky, they might book you on a campaign or a project. So that's key and critical. All right. Now, okay, another one of the most key critical mistakes that all photographers make is that they don't take all of their money in payment up front. Now, this one is mystifying to me, where I've spoken to some photographers recently, and they're on these huge jobs with clients, and they foot the bill for the job, and then they wait for the client to pay them afterwards. And I'm like, are you insane? Like, I won't even start producing a shoot. I won't even start planning a photo shoot, a location. I don't even plan the wardrobe styling, the hair, the makeup, the locations, and nothing until I get all of the money up front. So it depends on the project. But if it's a consumer project, you're dealing directly with a person, and you're going to photograph them for their branding, or you're going to photograph them for their portraits or headshots or wedding or whatever. Requirement, guys, this will save you so much time, energy, and hassle in the long run. Always, 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 100% without fail, take 100% of the money up front. Period. If you're a consumer photographer, 100% of the money up front. I don't care. There's no one can talk me out of that. Nobody can tell me that there's a reason not to do that, because that is absolutely idiotic to take money after a photo shoot, because good luck trying to collect it. You might have a few customers, I might be honest, but a lot of people will find ways of delaying payment and screwing you out of that. So always, 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 100% of the time, take payment up front. Not only do that, don't even start planning the shoot or wasting your time with it until the money's in your bank account. And it's the same thing on commercial advertising. So it's commercial advertising. I take 100% of production expenses up front. So for instance, that campaign that I was showing you guys earlier on this project, for this client, what we did was, if it's production expenses, and production expenses are pretty significant amount, so that includes all the crew, all the costs of the talent, all the costs of the production, basically everything except for usage on this, it's pretty significant. So in a project like this, it's a pretty significant amount of use of production costs. So say it's $145,000 in production costs. That $145,000 is already taken immediately upon booking. I send them an invoice and get that money long before I ever start preparing this photo shoot, this project for the client. So we take the money up front, $145,000 for the production costs, and then the remaining balance is going to be all done. We're going to do 50% of usage and creative upfront as well, and then 50% of the usage and creative at the very end of the shoot. Now, oftentimes I even gotten to the point where instead of doing a net 30, like a lot of agencies typically would do, where they pay you within 30 days of the shoot, I actually do it within deliverables. So I basically, upon delivery of the content, I get paid the final remaining balance, so that everything 100% is paid. And that's how I would do it, because I don't want to spend, $145,000 producing a shoot. That's insane. It's just, you got to bankroll the client. No way, no how. So make sure you get that money up front, and you're invoicing them for that and get paid. Always, always, always. And whenever a photographer gives me a sob story about, oh, their client didn't pay him and stuff like that, well, that's your own fault. You've got to make sure you get 100% of the money up front, always, 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 and make sure you have a very strong contract in place with them that specifies what the project entails, what the usage and the media is, everything, all the details of it. Again, if you guys need help with that or need examples of that, I've got those. I can send them to you from many, many of my shoots. So I'm happy to do that. These are all some of the most critical components, the critical aspects and mistakes that photographers make. And another one to kind of go in line with production expenses before I bring on my panelists is photographers are not billing for their equipment, their cameras, their lighting gear. And you know what? I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of money on my camera gear. I shoot with a Canon R5. It's like a $4,000 camera with, and then I've got another $10,000, $12,000 in lenses, right? So you're looking at $14,000 to $16,000 just in costs with your cameras, plus memory cards. I shoot those big 512 gigabyte CF Express cards. I've got my computer, my MacBook Pro. It's like, $3,000 computer. I've got all my lighting equipment from ProPhoto, about $100,000 worth of equipment. I don't know about you, but I don't want to take that money out of pocket. So always, always, always have your clients pay you to rent the equipment from yourself. Huge way to make money off of your own gear. And this is something that I've been doing my whole career. Whenever I don't buy any gear ever, unless I have a client who's paying me for the gear. So for instance, in this budget, I have a rental of $14,800 in production costs for equipment. Well, I own most of this gear. So, and if there's anything I don't own, then I rent it, but everything else, I rent it from myself. So I'm renting equipment from myself, from my other production company, and I'm making a huge profit on this. So in this situation, out of $14,800, I probably, a couple grand in rentals, but the rest of it, about $12,000 to $13,000, it's just in profit because I'm renting my equipment from myself. And if you guys aren't doing that, you're missing out on a huge amount of money. Now, granted, consumer photographers can't really get away with that with consumer clients. But if you're shooting anything commercial, always, 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 100% of the time, bill your clients for all your production expenses. And it's crazy to me when I see photographers include it in the fee or something without charging them. And it's also important because it makes the client feel like everything's itemized, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. He needs the camera, he needs the lighting equipment, all this huge budget is not just going into his pocket. There's real costs involved with this. So it's actually better for you in the long run because it makes you seem more humble and less greedy as a photographer, because you're not giving this massive photographer fee. It's more of broken down into what the actual true costs are, if that makes any sense. All right. Now, another thing I wanted to showcase with you guys is we have a lot of these epic webinars that we've been directing over the years. And I definitely encourage you guys, if you guys are on this right now, you probably want to see some of our other amazing webinars that we do. And I'm also, I think we have around 60 of these webinars that we did live, and then they are now all in rebroadcast. And I strongly encourage each and every one of you to join our YouTube page, and I put the channel on there on the chat. Please click on that and subscribe. You can watch over 60 of these live webinars on all different topics of photography, and it's a great way to just get free content and to learn more. We do these about every couple of weeks, and for me, I just love inspiring photographers and helping photographers because I am driven to help you guys with your photographic careers. It's so important to me. All right. Now, without further ado, I'd love to bring on my amazing panelists. So the great Lance Andrews, I'm going to ask you to jump on. I would really love to get your perspective on all of this. You're an amazing photographer and a successful photographer. And I know, Lance, because I've personally worked with you for many years, I know that you've made some of these mistakes. And I'd love for you to talk about that. And without, and to give you guys an idea of who he is, most of this editorial here was shot by him. This is, we got the cover and like a 40-page editorial, Number 8 magazine. The majority of it was actually shot by the great Lance Andrews, which I'm really proud of. And you got the cover and you got most of the editorials. So incredible work. And that was another thing, Lance, a lot of photographers, I offer them to get published because every single workshop we direct, I get published. And, 8 out of 10 of the photographers don't even send me their pictures. Well, and it's like, I'm not going to chase you guys down to get you published. Like, I'm doing you guys a huge favor. Lance gets those pictures retouched and ready to go and over to me because he wants his pictures published. And there he goes. He's published because Lance has great follow-up. He's practicing really, really good, smart photography business. All right. So Lance, introduce yourself. And I'm also going to showcase some of your websites and stuff, but I would love for you to tell us about who you are, where you're from, and kind of your journey in photography and kind of where you were when I first met you and where you are now, and maybe some of the mistakes you made and what some of the solutions were to kind of take you to the next level. So Lance, tell me about that.
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Lance Andrews.
Oh, hold on. I think for some reason it's muted on my end.
Oh, sorry. Am I good now?
You are. You should be good.
Good. Perfect. My name is Lance Andrews. I'm an editorial lifestyle photographer out of Greenville, South Carolina. I do travel all over the United States and internationally as well. I work in LA, Miami, New York, and I gotta say a lot of my success and my website, a lot of the new images on my website are attributed to taking these workshops. And when I started photography, I was kind of doing the first role, doing jack of all trades. I was doing fashion, I was doing lifestyle, I was doing weddings, portraits, your grandma's dog. I was doing everything because I was thinking if I did all the types of work out there, I can make all the most money. And honestly, that's the biggest lie I've learned. Because if you specialize in a specific niche, you get to hone into that niche, specialize yourself, and make more money that way. So I mostly do fashion, editorial, and lifestyle. I even have a wedding website, but my wedding website is under a completely different website, completely different brand name, separate from what I have now. The only thing linking it is my LLC for tax purposes. So that's the only reason why I have a wedding site and a fashion site separately. But recently, I've been making additional changes. This is my website right here, as you can see. And I don't know if it's refreshed or not, but I have a reel of my previous work and everything. And honestly, this website looked nothing like this before I met Kevin and this team. My website looked like Jack. It was horrible. But I was able to, through this workshop and through their guidance and mentorship, I was able to hone in my website to attract bigger clients. So I have, 4 tabs on top, home, portfolio, bio, contact, got to have your contact information on there. I mean, how else did I reach you? And also I rent out my studio just for additional passive income. But yeah, on my portfolio, if Kevin can click that. Like I said, I just mostly specialize 2 things, editorial, and lifestyle. And these images are from the workshop, that was from the Atlanta workshop. This horse one was from the, most of these top ones, except for that middle one, is from the Las Vegas workshop, when we had these like world-class models. They were super amazing and super professional too. I didn't have to worry about posing them. I didn't have to worry about worrying if they could understand the vision. They were on point. And honestly, that horse image on top of that corner, We got that in literally like 5 minutes. You know, it was amazing, and I gotta say that it makes marketing so much easier when you are very selective of the work that you put on your website. So I know someone said earlier, how do you market to other, companies and stuff like that? First thing is, being very strict on your portfolio. Even today, I'm still going through it and making sure, hey, how these websites are and everything. How's my work? And deleting old images. You can't get attached to old images. I know we're photographers, we're artists, we like to, but we cannot get attached to old work, because that you're only as good as your worst image. That's what I forgot who said that, but maybe Kevin said that.
That was me. It's
Yeah,
true.
it's
You're only as strong as your weakest image. And Lance, you're only as strong as the weakest model in your image.
Exactly. So you can't, because people will remember the worst image, but they will remember your best one. So, and what I've been doing is to market myself, what I've been doing is I downloaded I made an account on Agency Access. And what it does, it gives you a list of all the contact information, all the art directors, creative directors in the industry. And what I've been doing is I've been sending some emails this week. I haven't been doing it lately, so I've been slacking. So I'm still learning. I'm not perfect by any means, but I want to operate my photography on a higher level than just shooting local work, because I know my work's good, and I want to do bigger and better concepts. And let's be honest, make some more money. Who doesn't? And to do that, I need to make myself known to these bigger companies. So I downloaded Agency Access. They have a 1-month trial for free if you want to check it out. And then after that, you pay monthly or pay for a whole year. Not sponsored, just give me a suggestion.
And by the way, on that, Lance, is that you can use it entirely for a month, or is it like you only have access to a little bit for a month?
You only have access for a little bit, but you still got, I got the phone number, name of the creative director, and mailing address for H&M, Prada, Burberry, Abercrombie and Fitch, the big brands. So there's there. But I'm investing into it monthly because I know that I want to work at a higher level, and to work at a higher level, I need higher results. So I'm going to work for that. And I sent an email yesterday. I can't show it on here, but I sent an email to a creative director. It was like maybe 4 sentences, saying, "Hey, greetings, Aaron. I know you're busy. I won't waste your time, but I'd like to get information about me on your roster." And I put in some other text, but I'll put an image. I put the horse picture on there, because it kind of relates to their brand. And that's kind of another thing as well. Maybe a sub point is, if you're going to reach out to a brand, make sure you study up on that brand to make sure how to market it. You can't market Prada the same way you market towards H&M, because they're 2 separate, different, quality brands, so to speak. Burberry maybe editorial, H&M maybe more lifestyle. So I have a lifestyle portfolio side. So, and also, if you really want to make a splash, what I've been doing as well is I've been actually printing out portfolio books, mailing it directly to the creative director. And sure, this might be an extra expense on me. 1, I could write it off, but 2, having a handwritten note and a physical portfolio book mailed directly to them makes me stand out above everybody else, and they'll remember me. I may not hear from them, directly, but they're going to have that portfolio book, and it makes reaching out much easier. I can do a follow-up call, say, "Hey, Aaron, hope you received my portfolio book. I'd love to get in touch with you about how I can add value to your company. Let's keep in touch." Another image on the bottom, and send email. And there's a quote I heard recently, actually. It was that 2% of sales are made on the first call, 80% of sales are made on the 10th and beyond call, and 48% of sales associates don't follow up after the first contact. So that leaves a lot of money on the table, and that leaves a lot of opportunity on the table. So definitely follow up, and definitely take advantage of the opportunities and take advantage of mentorship. One thing I've learned recently is that if you want to get to somewhere, you got to take the advice of someone who's already been there. So when I want to create high photographic work, when I want to reach out to high brands, obviously Kevin and his team, they've done that. So I want to lean on their wisdom, lean on their experience, and take what they say to heart and to benefit my portfolio and obviously my business as well.
Excellent. Now, I want to follow up with you on this, Lance. You said that you're printing portfolios. Are these like bound books, like you're self-publishing a book kind of thing? Are those type of portfolios? Do like mixed books or something?
So this is just a prototype. So don't judge me or anything. I'm actually going to talk to you later and make sure is the formatting good?
Absolutely. I'd love to.
But basically, it's a book like this. It's a landscape. And what I do is I have images from our photographic workshops, in the book.
Wow. I want one of these.
Yeah.
That looks amazing.
Yeah, it's a website called Blurb. And
oh, yeah.
So I don't know if you use Blurb, but yeah, so basically I sent this. So this one, once I touch it up, maybe order another one, I'm gonna mail it to H&M. I have a mailer here. And also I have stationaries, just to add that extra value to stand yourself out, and I did the research, make sure my images were catered towards that brand, because obviously they like more bright and airy stuff and more lifestyle, and I'm basically trying to get my foot in the door that way, and this will be a great way to add value and also to get me on the radar.
And about how much does each one of those books cost you?
This one was, I'll say 60 or
okay.
Maybe $60, $80, but there's only like 20 pages in there. Now you could do the cheap route and do CVS, but I don't recommend that because you don't want your high quality images on cheap paper.
Right.
So no, I'm paying $60, $80 for this. And I'm just doing that over time and seeing what results I yield and doing it that way.
Excellent. I love it, Lance. I love it. And what's interesting about H&M is they kind of go both ways, because if you look at their branding campaigns, they actually do both lifestyle and fashion. So, you kind of have to make a decision there of which one you want to showcase. So it sounds like you want to, because even if I just Google like H&M campaigns, it actually kind of comes up with different ones. Like you have some that are more lifestyle-y and a little bit more free people like, and then you have some that are more like high fashion, like these. So there's kind of a mix.
I will say I like the fact that on your workshops that you have a variety of like editorial, lifestyle, swimsuit, stuff like that. So I actually did include a oh,
I love that image too. That was from that was epic lifestyle workshop.
These are really good. And I like your advice about not having the model's face directly in the center, because otherwise that would be in her face and it wouldn't look good. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, a thought on that too. Have you thought about making it a vertical book and having it vertical with some double page spreads on that?
Well, I might ask your opinion on that, because I'm still, this is still new territory for me, mailing out books. So I may lean on your more wisdom on that, see which format's better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm loving it. I'm loving your website. You've got some gorgeous work here. These are images from the workshops. I'm really proud of these. These are unbelievable. We shot like a vineyard with like all these lifestyle scenarios. We shot in Miami Beach, and this epic one right here with the guy with the surfboard and these girls down here. And then you go over to this like high fashion editorial stuff. And unbelievable. Now, these images to me, Lance, are really iconic. I mean, they're just absolutely epic. And as you know, because you've produced shoots yourself, it's very expensive to do this. It's very expensive and complex. You fly in models from New York and LA to out to the desert. We have RVs and motorhomes on production. We've got bringing in all the lighting equipment and vehicles out onto the desert, shooting with horses and these various animals out on location. It was insane. The scale of the production is high. So if you were to do this on your own, to scale something like that, it's going to be $50,000 to $100,000 a day to do it right. And that's why the workshops are such a huge advantage, because you end up saving a lot in the long run. And I recommend, guys, and please answer in the polls section, because I was asking, what is your budget for developing your portfolio? And this could be, whether you do it on your own, whether you produce shoots, and I know Lance does, because he does shoots all the time, whether he does it at the workshops or he does it on his own. He does both. So producing shoots on your own, or coming to these epic workshops where we literally do it all for you. We provide the motorhome RVs, the all the model casting with my Rolodex of top models that have been in Vogue and Harper's Bazaar, top stylists and massive scale production, and you can kind of spread the cost over the whole group. So it ends up being a much, much less expensive experience over the course of 5 days, 5 massive scale shoot production days. So please ask in the polls, please go ahead and answer that one. And I'm going to ask you guys another poll here in a few. But Lance, out of all these shoots, because you've done quite a few with me over the years, from Atlanta to Las Vegas, out in the desert, to Miami, have you also done a masterclass yet with me?
I have not.
You haven't done
my next one with you is actually the Paris French one. Actually.
French Castle, the French Castle. That's epic.
Next one.
Which ones of these really do you think you benefited the most from?
Probably the Vegas one, because I was there for all 5 days.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was like, I'm a skeptic at heart sometimes. So I was like, let me do the 3-day one. And then I kind of regret it, because I wish I did the 5-day one in Miami. Because I know you guys went to, I know we shot in that mansion. And then you guys went to some island or something after that. And then I was kind of like, man, missed out on that one. So, I would say the Vegas one definitely benefit the most. I got a ton of great images from that I have all over on my Instagram, on my website. And that's another thing I want to point out as well. So lately, I've been noticing that I've been getting a lot more inquiries ever since I cleaned up my social media as well. So I will also say that if you're looking to market yourself as well, not just on your website, but clean up your social media as well. I have tons of images from the past that I left on there all the way down. I was like, man, that does not represent my current work. So right now I have the top Vegas workshop images pinned to the top right here. So that's like the first thing they see. I'm still have to go through my Instagram and clean up as well, but I got rid of all the boudoir and lingerie photos, because that doesn't represent what I want. And honestly, a lot of the big brands don't care for that type of work.
Right. And that's one of the things, Lance, I want you to talk about this, because you're a brilliant photographer, but you also have this gorgeous like lingerie and sexy photography that you do. But one of the conversations I've had with you is I kind of sat you down. I'm like, well, Lance, where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? And you're like, oh, I want to be, your brand is In Vogue Photography. So you probably want to be shooting for Vogue. You want to be shooting high-end fashion. You want to be shooting major campaigns. And do those shoots with lingerie and sexy girls, does it really get you there, or does it hold you back?
It was definitely holding me back for a couple of reasons. One, big brands don't care for that type of content. They don't want to be associated with that type of content. And because especially nowadays where everything is very polarizing, I would say, having that type of sexy content, some people might not care, but some people may do. And they'll look at your Instagram and be like, nah, not that guy. Even though I can create great work, they will look at that image and just write me off, And I don't want to have that type of reputation to speak for my entire body of work. Granted, I was doing boudoir and lingerie because I was getting a lot of client inquiries from that. But I want to operate and shoot at a higher level, at a higher caliber. And I knew doing that type of, sexy content, wasn't going to get me there. So So I went through my Instagram. I cleaned up a lot. Some stuff, some more stuff I'm cleaning up as well. And, I'm basically just trying to elevate myself. I'm still got a lot of learning to do and a lot of, mileage to go, but
I have a suggestion for you right now, Lance. You have all these gorgeous images that are just iconic and beautiful, but we also have the published versions of these. And I would recommend you post the published ones that actually show all the topography and stuff on it so that people can tell that it was published.
Right. I did post it, but it might have been like down in the feed right now. So I probably should pin it on top. And so that
because this image, for instance, and when you see the topography with it and stuff, I think it's even stronger because then it's like, oh wow, that's the social proof that he's been published.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah,
it's still learning. Still learning.
Always. I mean, your work is so strong, and we just need to brand it in the best possible way so that everybody knows how gorgeous it is. Here, I'll actually show the audience here what I'm talking about.
And that's another thing I want to touch upon as well, is that some photographers get very prideful when someone criticizes their work. And I gotta say that, you know what, just go ahead and get rid of that pridefulness, because if you want to advance, you gotta take criticism. Criticism is actually a good thing. Criticism for the entrepreneur and for anyone who wants to grow is you can either let it hurt you or use it as a tool for growth. So even though like there's some images I really love from the past, they don't serve me anymore. So now I look to the advice of people who've been to where I've been, and now I adjust my work accordingly.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Lance, because we just directed this epic workshop in New York. And some of the photographers that are on right now attended it. And I have a story to share with you and the audience about a critical mistake that a photographer made. And it was a photographer, it was me. This is gorgeous. I just love these scenes. This is all from that editorial in Vegas, by the way. And we have this workshop coming up once again this March. And Lance landed the cover of this. But Lance, I wanted to bring this up. We had this amazing panelist at our workshop in New York, and his name is Joe Lombardo, and he's with Curated Artists, and he's a major artist, major agent, and he was with Artists and Creatives in New York for years, and then started his own agency. But anyway, what I wanted to exhibit was that when I first started my career, I did my bachelor's, my MFA to be a professor of photography. I got out of school, I started shooting, and I built this great portfolio. And you know what? As I think I was like a 24-year-old punk kid, I wanted to get an agent. I'm like, hey, if I want to be a high profile photographer, I need to have an agent. Right. So I was like contacting all these agents. Now, this is Joe Lombardo's agency now. Anyway, I was contacting all these agents, and I'm this 24-year-old kid just picking up the phone, calling, mailing them promo pieces, emailing them, talking to them, asking about, I'm looking for representation. And most of them were all, oh, I don't have any, oh, I'm not interested. No, like I have enough, and I'm not adding to my roster, whatever. That's what they all say. But there's about 200 agents in the country, and I'm contacting all of them, and I'm building relationships with them, and most of them don't want to talk to me, but I don't care. I have thick skin, right? This agent I talked to, Joe Lombardo, and Joe Lombardo, he picked up he was like, oh my God, I love your work. I got your promo piece. It's awesome. Why don't you mail me your portfolio? And I was like, what? And I didn't have a cool portfolio like Lance. I didn't have that epic like printed book like Lance, right? So these days you want either a printed book or you need like a screw post bound portfolio, right? So this top tier agent, and I'm actually going to show you what my portfolio looks like. But basically, I was like trying to scurry around and try to make a portfolio, and I was like, shoot, like what do I do? He loves my work, so I go over to this art store, and I go to like a Blick Art, and I go and I buy a portfolio, a leather 11 by 17 approximately black leather portfolio, and it had these like spiral bound binding in it, and I go and I print all the pictures that he liked on my website, and then I basically attach them into this like spiral bound portfolio, and then I mail it to him. Didn't hear back. And And then eventually I called up and I followed up. I'm like, hey, Joe, this is Kevin Michael Schmitz. I sent you my book. You wanted to see my portfolio. You loved my website. I sent you my book. What happened? And he just went off on me. He started saying that you sent me absolute garbage. What are you doing? Are you kidding me? Why are you wasting my time?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, well, and instead of getting upset, instead of getting defensive, I was like, really? Well, the same pictures that you saw on my website that you loved so much, what didn't you like about my portfolio? He's like, oh, well, the presentation's shit. I could never show this to my advertising clients. This guy, and by the way, Joe Lombardo, I just saw him a few weeks ago. His photographers are shooting the Gucci campaign. Mm. And his stylist that worked with me also styling the Gucci campaign that worked with us in New York at our workshop. So anyway, so he's like, yeah, no, this is absolute crap. I don't want to see anything like this. And he's like, no, this is just garbage. And first of all, it can't be screw post. It has to be screw post bound or printed bound like the one you have. It can't be this spiral bound crap. And it was a cheaper one, bought at Blick Art. And I spent $300 on it, but it was garbage in the eyes of an agent. It has to be very specific. So then I was like, well, can you at least send it back to me? Like a week goes by, in the mail, I get this portfolio that was broken in half and like ripped apart and put in a box. And then I got it in the mail.
Wow.
But I tell you what, it was a mistake that I made. And, lo and behold, I didn't get represented by him. But it pushed me to go out and make a nice, beautiful portfolio. And actually, this is the portfolio here. I'll show you. This is the portfolio that I made like shortly after all this happened. And here I'm in it. And I made this portfolio. So it was 11 by 14 and it's got, beautiful images in it. It's got, it's bound with like screw post binding in the middle with 3 screw posts. So if you see, this is the type that they all look for. And I've had this now for years, and this was from many years ago when I was showcasing this portfolio. But this is what it looked like. The new portfolio that I made, it kicked me into gear. And when I made this, I got repped by an agent. I got repped by AA reps in New York, and I ended up being repped by them for many years and shooting big campaigns for them and stuff like that. So it all started though with getting kicked in the butt because I wasn't doing it right. I was making mistakes.
And where did you get that? Where'd you get that one from? Like, what? Did you order that, or?
I had this handmade by a bookbinder, which, by the way, is very expensive. It often it's about $2,000 to $3,000 to have them handmade by a bookbinder. But I don't know if I'd even recommend that these days because portfolios a lot of times they don't even, can't even get in to show a book right now. But I do recommend. There's a great brand called Paper House where I buy a lot of my metal portfolios now. And I love those things. In fact, so anyway, so that's the story. The funniest thing, guys, is that he jumped on he was on as, not only did he represent our stylist on our shoot, but he also he was our panelist. And he spoke for like 3 hours during our workshop. And it was epic because we had this opportunity to meet Joe and all the photographers. I actually told that story. It was great. But he's now, top tier agent, and, we got to talk about, and he got to meet the photographers that were there, and about, if they want to be represented by him, he's the kind of guy they need to build relationships with. So our photographers that attended the workshop are now, some of them are talking to him about maybe being represented by him someday, which is pretty awesome. So, and by the way, just to give you guys an idea, this is what we shot in New York at our New York fashion photography workshop. We shot with these supermodels from Vogue. We shot at a $40 million mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut. And then we also shot at the Vanderbilt estate. And, but it was absolutely epic. But just to give you a little bit of an idea. And Joe Lombardo was our key panelist, which is really cool. So Lance, you've developed significantly since I've met you. You branded yourself differently. You've cut out the kind of sexy images. You've gone towards editorial and fashion. What's next for you? What do you want to achieve? Is it shooting the branding campaign for H&M? What does that look like for you?
So my goal for now is I want to shoot branding campaigns for more of the luxury fashion brands. So I do want to shoot H&M. I do want to shoot Burberry, Prada, Dolce & Gabbana, those type of brands, because I personally love fashion. I have a, passion for fashion, that was a lame joke, but I definitely want to create and shoot more high-end productions. I can only do so much on my own. As you said earlier, it's expensive. It's very expensive to do these high-end budget type of photography shoots on your own. And I would like to do them for campaigns who actually have the financial backing to create my visions and, really hone in my skills. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. So that's why I got the agency access. I have the contact information. So for the next, however long it takes, I'm gonna send at least 5 emails a day. I'm gonna try to mail out a portfolio book, once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on, my schedule and how, budgeting goes. And, staying consistent. And that's kind of the key thing you have to do is you have to stay consistent and follow up with these clients. Otherwise, you won't get them. It's kind of what you said earlier, a lot of people don't follow up and don't put in the work for this. So you have to put in the work. And that's my goal for the next 90 days. And then see what I can do from that. And also go on the workshop, France is coming. It's soon.
I love it. I love it. It really has made a difference. And I'm really, really happy to have you here and to have you a part of this, Lance, because you're wonderful. You're a wonderful asset to our team. And it's so awesome to have you.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for, putting on these workshops. I know it's not easy from a, producer standpoint. But yeah, it's really definitely benefited my photography business. So I appreciate you, Priscilla, and all your team, whatever you guys have been doing.
Oh, thank you, Lance. So thanks for joining us. I can't wait to see you on the next one. And speaking of our production and the great Priscilla, we have the great Priscilla Evans here as a panelist, and she is also our production coordinator. She helps manage all this magic and helps, create these unbelievable productions with amazing animals that we bring in. From this year, we brought in Priscilla. We had kangaroos. We had baby lemurs at the Virginia workshop. We've shot with like 13 different horses there. We've shot at the Colorado one. We had Bactrian camels to reindeer, and we have the most unbelievable experiences. So anyway, Priscilla, why don't you tell me a little bit about, I know you get to coach photographers all the time. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of the biggest mistakes that they make and what you have coached them on to improve on and to solve those?
Absolutely. So, hey guys, it's wonderful to be on. These are really necessary discussions, and it can feel a little bit like, you're getting broken down sometimes when you have these discussions. Maybe it's with a mentor, or maybe it's with someone in the industry, like Kevin's experience early on. But they're so necessary for growth, because if you've got a goal, and we all do, I hope we all do, if it's anything other than what you're doing right now, then you've got to take action to make that happen. And that can take many forms, and those actions that you need to take are going to be different at different points in your career, depending on where you're at with your photography. But there are so many easy things. There have been some really easy tips and tricks on today's webinar, such as making sure you've got your contact information readily available. That doesn't cost anything if you've already got a website, going, all the way through to something a little more in-depth and heavy, like investing in yourself in a big way. And something I want to, I think, delve right into is photographers' perceptions of money. And it's a tricky one. And everyone has a different perception of money. Everyone has their own weird kind of interrelationship with money. But the photographers that tend to be the most successful earliest on in their photography journey, that can come at any point in someone's life, they tend to be the ones that understand the true costs of waiting, the true costs of, that being like the opportunity cost of waiting, but also the process that, the portfolio and your brand has to take to get you to that endpoint. So, I want to come back to kind of the chicken and egg of these big goals and what happens first. And this is often a discussion that I have pretty regularly, actually, with photographers. So more often than not, there's a big goal. It might be to shoot for Prada, to land a front cover of a Vogue or Harper's Bazaar. And we kind of end up having this discussion of, well, okay, why haven't you got there? Or at what point, if you keep going with what you're doing, are you going to get there? And often that comes down to, well, I haven't got there because I've got nothing in the portfolio yet to allow me to get there. Okay, cool. So we've worked out that the bottom line is portfolio. So how do you, propose to fix that right now? Or how do you want to do it yourself, if that's, where the conversation goes? And more often than not, the answer is like, I'm going to wait until I eventually, build the clients. They go from here, maybe to here with the budget, here to here, and we step up bit by bit. But often that can mean taking on a whole lot of clients in years of interim, where the budgets are really, really small. And instead, and I think that the perception is that because there is a budget, be it a few hundred or a few thousand, that we're doing really well. But what photographers fail to consider is all those years where they could have been landing a couple of six-figure ad campaigns instead of working super, super, super hard to land the smaller clients, where that time and where, the energy should have gone. And they don't look at it as a loss, but it is a loss. It's a huge loss of opportunity that could have come way sooner if the money and that perception of money and how to spend it and where to spend it and at what point to invest in equipment, which shouldn't be early on. It should be like the last thing that you're investing in. What point to invest in the brand, which should be the first thing, and that personal brand and investing in it can take lots of forms, but the most important part of that is that portfolio and that video reel. And if you can do the chicken and egg, scenario in a different way and figure out, which is basically where we come in, in terms of these crazy high value, workshops where you walk away with content that makes you look like, and we encourage you to market yourself as someone who is basically, already, like with Lance, you've landed front covers. Fantastic. You're now, an internationally published fashion editorial photographer. Amazing. You've now got the ability to go back to those clients and show that you've already done it. And that's the thing. If you, had taken a different journey and gone about it yourself, trying to slowly build, we wouldn't even be anywhere near that point yet. But Lance, you're going to have an amazing year next year because, oh my gosh, like look at these images. These are ridiculous. And I'm super, super proud of you. And I do also want to echo Kevin. I love the portfolio. If these, if you adjust these in the social and put the editorial, the published versions in, they look insane. I think that this kind of content, if you can start with this and understand that, debt isn't as scary as it may seem earliest on in your career, you're actually, if you can understand the value of doing it now, investing now, making all of these steps with your brand now, and that can mean saying no, saying no to some of those lower budget clients that are not worth your time. Often saying no to them and not taking the few hundred or the couple of grand today, it can mean making a lot more, come a few months or a few years down the track. So understanding the true costs, understanding and sort of reevaluating, that interrelationship with money and investing in yourself, investing in the portfolio to achieve the, what the minimum is. And for us, what we constantly hear, we heard it from our panelists that we had speaking at our masterclass last week, but it's, 40 images, cohesive body of work. That means individual 40 for individual brand, another 40 for a separate brand for separate clientele. So each portfolio, each brand, 40 cohesive images. There needs to be at least 20 of those that are iconic. Lance, and that's just building to an insane number now, which is awesome. Having all of those boxes ticked, a little bit of, it might be the boxes they want ticked these days. So diversity, that might be diversity for a commercial brand in the age of the models, in the ethnicity of the models, all sorts of things like that. Location variety, which is where we come in, making sure that out of, a 5-day workshop, like in New York, I think we had 5 days between, we had rooftop studio, Vanderbilt mansion, and this incredible estate that honestly looks, every single image on it looked like it was from somewhere else in Italy or France. So it really did have a fantastic location variety to it. And understanding the cost of doing something like this yourself, because a lot of our photographers, that we have at these workshops understand that by pooling together, we're able to put on a much bigger production and work as a team to get, like in New York, 39 different scenes out of those 5 days. which is basically your entire portfolio. That's pretty awesome. And, to be able to do that as a group, you'll get a lot more out of it a lot more, quickly. So it's much more efficient and it's a faster way to reach those goals. And, if others are doing it, then really you're just being left behind if you're not. So it is a competitive industry. It's just the way that it is. And to understand that true value in investing in yourself. And I think as we get to the end of the year, really start to think about that with 2023 and some new goals, and maybe, setting aside, maybe for the first time for some of you, a really decent budget, investing in yourself and understanding the power that that's going to have long term.
You're absolutely right, Priscilla. And some of these mistakes that these photographers are making, like, we're able to overcome them by creating massive scale production value with unbelievable branding. And I loved how you touched on money and their interrelationship with money, but it's all about the investment. Do you have any last strategies or tips that you'd like to share with photographers? Because I know you get to personally consult with photographers, because Priscilla's one of our lead photographic consultants. Are there any strategies that you have given to photographers that, kind of some secret sauce that you'd love to share? Now would be a great time.
Absolutely. I think, those ability to be able to market directly. And like Lance was saying, craft those emails, craft those images around the brand, and also just having a mentor to look over that. Lance, obviously we're here for you all the time, more than happy to look over those conversations and those communications, especially as you start to, have them more often and more regularly with those top tier agencies that are, responsible for some of those fantastic brands that you want to be working with. But definitely, regularly checking in, regularly adjusting the marketing plan and being consistent and doing more with the marketing. Some things that come to mind, I would say, with the photographers that are on right now, I certainly remember those print promo pieces that I've seen that photographers have either sent me or brought to a workshop, and we've checked over them. And, I've said, yes, this is ready to send. I love it. And one that comes to mind, Jane Ritchie, if you're still on, that yours are absolutely beautiful. Love your lifestyle, print promo pieces, and they're memorable. I think she showed me hers in February, and I still know exactly which images, she's got from different workshops on there. So, they're fantastic to do. And I think hitting the marketing goals in a lot of different ways, social, but also something in person, something tangible, it's just so much more memorable if you're physically holding it and it's shoved in your face. I'd say one thing I do say, which I actually want to talk to you about this as well, Lance. It's just the only thing I would probably look at changing sooner than later with your website. I love full bleed images. And I think that it's more, it's not about what I love, it's about what's in right now. But I do hear that from a lot of the panelists that we have, is that full bleed, show that whole image here rather than, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the same screen, and make sure that those websites are, phone compatible as well. So that when you're opening it, whoever it is, a prospective client is opening that website, you can see it beautifully with those images loading really nicely on a smaller screen too. So check those things. Always good to just, have a look at your website from different devices, just double check that everything's loading well. And for this, I think that, like that gorgeous yellow dress, the horse, to me, stunning images. They'd be even more stunning if they were full bleed, and it was like a nice easy gallery, and that the best images are loading first. I'm not sure what comes up on, you might have your video reel too. That probably should be first, but video reel and portfolio, the best of the best loading first on your website. You don't want to have too much clicking into folders or anything like that. Make it easy for all of those decision makers that are looking at it. They're all time poor, and they want to be able to look, love, and call you pretty much on the same page. So make it easy for them, and and let the images speak for themselves.
Well, thank you so much, Priscilla. And yeah, and to her point, that I totally agree. Lance, your images are epic here, but there's so little on the screen, I can't really see them, and I want them to fill up the screen because they're just so darn good. They're so epic. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Priscilla, and thanks so much, Lance, for joining us. on here as panelists. We'd love to hear perspectives. And for those of you guys who have not set up a photographic consult, then please, go ahead and take advantage of that. You can click this in the chat and set up a photographic momentum session on essentially, we went over the 9 biggest mistakes that photographers make, but also, during your momentum session, you can learn about the top 10 aspects that successful photographers incorporate and strategies incorporate to become super successful. And that's what our photographic consultants can help you with, each and every aspect to make sure that you can achieve your goals. That's really important. And I want to thank you guys for joining us, because this is something I know I was very critiquing a lot of what you guys do, but these are things that all photographers make. I've made every mistake under the sun over my whole career, but I've learned from them, I've grown from them, and I'm trying to constantly develop and become the best version of myself, the best photographer. And I'm here to help you guys do that as well. So if you guys want to get involved in any of our epic experiences, let us know. But either way, I want you guys to achieve greatness in your photography and become unbelievable, world-class, successful photographers at the highest level. And I want you guys to be able to circumvent all these problems that our photographers are dealing with all the time, the biggest mistakes, and be able to let us make the mistakes and you guys don't have to, so you guys can get past that. So if you incorporate everything we talked about today, especially when it comes to the phone calls, the follow-up, and the marketing and developing your photographic brand and portfolio, you will be so much better off in the long term, just like Lance is. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and I look forward